So I really like the top hat sort of style. I know that's broad, but sort of if you think of like Stevie Nicks, that's my style.
Mm.
Um, but I also when I was in at FIT learned about the 30s and 40s, which was quote unquote the heyday of the hat.
Yeah.
So the blocks back then were spectacular. They were very sculptural. The block makers were artists. And so trying to marry sort of a modern look, but using old techniques.
Hi, Chacha. It's so great to meet you here on Zoom.
Hi, Petra. Thank you for having me.
And you are in New York.
Correct. Yes.
Tell me about your wonderful hat designs and your business. Are you in your shop at the moment or your studio?
Well, my studio is downstairs. I have a unique space here in New York. It's a brownstone from the 1800s that is actually serves as the rectory of St. Mary's Church. And I work with the priest here. We're friends, and he does his own line of clothing as well. So I help him out with that. And in return, he would let me rent a space, the other part of the space down in the sort of like garden apartment of the brownstone. So right now I'm just sitting in this library, which you can kind of see how old and beautiful it is. But my studio's downstairs. Maybe at the end, I'll just take you around for a tour.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah.
But my staff is down there, and I just figured the noise factor would be better up here.
Yeah. But Chacha, you have such a great story. I read on your website about how you got into hat making, and you're talking about finding your tribe and finding the people that also get what you're doing. But what initially about hat making inspired you to start making hats?
Well, I went to undergrad for fashion design and then moved to New York to try and get into that business more in the ready-to-wear side of things. And it's very difficult in New York. It's a lot of competition. And I just found that I wasn't quite finding the right fit for me. And so then I ended up, in another job doing a retail position. And I took the course at FIT just because I liked hats. It was nothing more than just like I was a hat wearer. And when I took that course, I just like fell in love with the process. Mm-hmm. And the instructor and person who headed the millinery department at the time, her name was Anne Albrizio. And she was kind of this incredible, gruff spinster lady who just like lived for making hats. Mm-hmm. And she was great. She was super inspiring and taught me everything I know. And I would just take her class over and over again. She taught the blocking class. Well, she taught a lot of them, but like the blocking portion of it was what I really liked, because it's kind of very hands-on. It's like sculpting.
So at the time when you started making hats, was it a time where people wore hats or because that must have been
it was the early 90s. Yeah, it was the early 90s when I started, when I took the courses. And no, hat wearing really had fallen out of fashion by the 60s. But, it's always come back, and there's always been hat wearers. So I did that in the 90s. And then in 2001 is when I opened the business. But prior to that, I worked with like a couple of designers in the downtown area. I would do hats for their runway shows and things of that nature. And this, of course, was all pre-social media. So, you just like meet someone at a bar and and make a connection that way, And so then in 2001, I opened the shop, and it was I opened downtown, and it was the month before 9/11. And so my intention was to be a retail store. and just make hats and be a vintage store. I had a big vintage collection and things like that, because that was my background. I was in retail. And when that happened, I had to pivot, or else I would have gone out of business. They basically shut down everything between 14th Street and, all the way to the World Trade Center site. So I applied to get into a trade show, which I got into. And that's where I found like my first client base and went into the wholesale side of things from there.
Oh,
It's kind of crazy.
But the hat making, so you have was there a distinct sort of design that you loved making, or was it just being creative and trying different things? How did you start off?
So I really like the top hat sort of style. I know that's broad, but sort of if you think of like Stevie Nicks, that's my style. Mm-hmm. But I also when I was at FIT, learned about the 30s and 40s, which was quote unquote the heyday of the hat. Yeah. So the blocks back then were spectacular. They were very sculptural. The block makers were artists. And so trying to marry sort of a modern look, but using old techniques. And I like to do a lot of handwork. So if you look on my website, there's a lot of hats with like a pleat, or they looked kind of smushed up. So they get blocked. I don't do the blocking as much anymore by the person who does my blocking, but then I manipulate them once they're off the block. So it's both a design characteristic, but it also helps when you're wearing the hats, because you shouldn't wear a hat I happen to be wearing this one kind of straight on, but you really should have it tilted. This style you should wear straight, but most hats you want it to have a little bit of an angle. Some people aren't comfortable with that. So if there's like a pleat or a squishing down, it naturally fits on your head that way and looks much better. So like there's something on the website called that Diablo. That's one of my best-selling hats. It's been in the line for a long time, and it's got that. It's a top hat. It's got the pleating. It's kind of smushed up. Meant to sort of just be worn whenever, not as like a top hat and you're going to the races or something. Oh, yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. But you must have also, because you talk about your tribe and the people that like what you do, so you must have probably your regular clientele or people that come to you specifically for your hats.
Oh, yeah. So mostly I'm a wholesaler, and so I sell to other shops. The biggest clients are other hat shops. So they are, I shouldn't say other hat shops. I'm not really a hat shop. Are the hat shops. So let's say in New York City, there's one called The Hat Shop. She's a very good friend of mine. Again, one of my mentors. She's also mentioned in my story. And her stuff, the stuff I send there, I can send her anything. She has a huge client base. They're hat wearers. So there's a difference between someone who goes to a boutique and buys an outfit, and then she buys a hat, or he. They are maybe a first-time hat wearer, or they're more uncomfortable in hats, and that's fine. I sell to those boutiques, but my real business and my real client base is at the hat shops, because these are collectors. These are people who love hats. They wear hats every day, and they don't want just the basic hat that you see, honestly, something like this, very basic, flat brim. The Western style is very popular right now. It's been great for the hat business for everyone, but the people who buy the hats at hat shops are buying something, they want something special. They want something different. They want something handmade. They want something that maybe is not going to be seen by or worn by anyone else, so does that answer your question?
Yeah. Because
okay.
because I find also, I spoke to a hat maker in Australia, and we were talking about this, that the hat is really something. It has a story, or it tells a story, or people wear it like that. That it's sort of part of you and part of memories and experiences that you wear the hats. And do you find that also with the clients or the people?
Absolutely. I mean, it's, they're going to a music festival, they're going to the Derby, they're going to a wedding, that's a great way to say it too. Like, she's right on. There's always a story behind a hat. I wore this hat when I met this person, or I went to this event, or a lot of people wear it around music. And musicians are also a lot of my client base. So there's some connection there with musicians, or creative people tend to also be more into hats. And I don't know why that is, but I do have a client, he's out in Arizona, and he buys top hats for his mother to wear at. She's the pastor's wife, and she wears hats every Sunday. And every week we make her new beautiful top hat, and it's, for me, he lets my creative juices run wild, and but it's very collaborative because we're making it to match her outfit, and he has very specific design ideas. So it's that also, I like to be put in a box sometimes and say, here are your parameters, make it work. Yeah.
So do you sometimes get the sort of, you make the hat for the outfit, but sometimes the outfit, the hat comes first and then the outfit needs to be matched to the hat? Does that happen?
Some people, I mean, a lot of people buy their hat first, for sure, because if they're going to, let's say, the hat shop, there's a shop called Brim in Ohio, there's another one in Boston called Salmagundi. Like, those clients are going there for their hat, and then they'll work their outfit around it. It's almost secondary at that point.
Yeah. So do you also look at people? Can you look at people and then see the hat and then think, okay, this is what's going to suit this personality?
Honestly, I can't just look at you and say, you should wear this one.
Yeah.
But when everyone comes into my shop, so I do some very little, sort of hands-on retail with the end user, but, people can make an appointment and come in. I just make them try on a bunch of hats, and sorry, I've got my hand in the wrong spot. I just make them try on a bunch. And usually by the third, I know what's going to work for them, and then I can direct them to the right style. Because there's a lot about your face shape, your cheekbones, and I can tell how comfortable you are. Some people can wear any hat, frankly, because they love hats. They know how to wear them. They throw them on their head. They look great. Other people, you can feel there's a little bit of, I don't know why there is, but there's some things very self-conscious for people in hat wearing. And so those are the people that, you just take a little bit more time to help them find something that they feel comfortable in, that first hat or second hat that they buy. And then once they start wearing hats, then they can kind of expand their horizons. You know what I mean? Like, that first time you wear a hat to a party and now you're talking, you don't have to really do a lot to meet people, because someone's going to come over and be like, oh, I love your hat. And there you go.
Yeah. Well, I think also that maybe it's because, like you say, in the 30s or the 20s, it was sort of part of our lives, the hats. Women wore it more often. You wouldn't go out really without a hat. So maybe now it's also different because we're not used to that anymore.
Right. I do feel like after COVID, some people came out of COVID saying, I'm just going to wear sweatpants for the rest of my life. This is great. And then there's a group of people that came out being like, I'm dressing up every day.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I am never going to put another pair of sweatpants on. I'm going to wear the crazy outfit that I always wanted to buy. I'm not going to be afraid. And those are my people.
Yeah. But can you see a very clear evolution in your work? Can you see where you started off and in the years that there are things that you've really developed, or a style that you've developed that you can see?
Well, I mean, my business changed a lot. I think part of the reason why I'm still in business is that I kind of kept changing
Okay.
to keep up with the times.
Mm.
So if I was up to me, I'd make top hats every day for everyone, but that would put me out of business.
Mm.
So, I mean, I think the evolution is really just being open to new styles, to new trends. I also do a lot of work for other hat designers now or other hat companies because we have a large block collection and we have a very, even though it's a small studio, we can pump out a lot of hats. So there's, hat makers who don't have the block collection. So we make their hats. I don't trim them. It doesn't have my label in them, but we're blocking their hats because
Okay.
they don't have the facility.
Mm.
So part of it is just keeping the business going by being open to doing other things and different revenue streams. Um, as far as my own personal style, or the sort of the cha-cha line, I do feel like at this point we've got our niche, so to speak. So, and I'll show you when we go downstairs, but I do a lot of leather piping on the brim. I do a lot of like the hand pleating and hand dyeing. That's what I'm known for. When I try and get away from that, my customers bring me back. They're like, no, we
Really?
want that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think just we're constantly playing with dyeing techniques. The unfortunate part of the hat business is that there's not as many options in the raw materials to make yourself stand out. There's very few factories that make the felt. There's more that make straw, but the felt it's a few here. There's a big factory in, Czech Republic and Poland, but there's not a lot of diversity because hats took such a hit back in the day. So in order to make them interesting, the raw materials interesting, we do a lot of hand dyeing, dip dyeing and things like that. And, I just have to keep fresh with, going to flea markets and visiting the trim shops. And, I have my suppliers, but I have to remind myself, like, go check this out. Someone told you about this person to find something new and fresh. So yeah, it's fun. I also do a lot of collaborative work now too, where in the beginning I didn't, most of the hat shops that I work with, the line that I'm creating for them is specifically for their shop. So I work with the owner because, the store in Boston versus the store in Ohio versus the store in New York, that client base is completely different.
But now New York is such a huge city, and it must have been difficult for you to get established there and to make a name for yourself there when you first started off.
Yeah, I mean, it took a while, but again, doing the wholesale and doing the trade shows opened up my world to other places, other people. For a long time, I had a client in Japan. That was one of my first big clients. And so a big part of my business for the first 10 years was all in the Japanese.
Really?
And then that kind of dried up. The Japanese economy changed. And so I had to, pivot again.
Yeah.
And the other thing in the beginning too, I was lucky. My studio was in the Lower East Side, as it is now, but it was on the street. And some costume designers just kind of walked by, found me, and I was able to make hats. I worked with them making hats for like Britney Spears and Justin Timberlake and some celebrities who, they were in magazines, and that also helped quite a bit in the beginning.
Mm. But now, are there still now young people interested in hat making? Is this something that's
for sure, yes,
really?
definitely. If you look on Instagram, social media, it's all over. It's very Western based, but there's tons of young people getting into it, and it's like one of those crafts that people get very interested and nerdy about. Buying the blocks and all the tools, and it's a very dynamic process, and it works well on social media too, because there's steam and there's,
okay. Yeah.
You're very physical when you're blocking, especially.
Mm. Well, this is, I never thought about that, but it's really a form of art, and it's a craft to make it, but it's really a form of art, and you sort of miss that, you think of the designing and the clothing, but you almost miss the hat, and then when you start looking and you're seeing, okay, this is really an art form.
Yes, for sure.
Mm. But now,
why don't I take you downstairs?
Yeah, please. That would be great.
Hopefully I won't lose you in the stairs.
No, don't worry. Then I'll reconnect again with you.
Okay.
There you are. Oh wow.
Sorry, you're gonna hear me talking to my.
Yeah.
So this is he's the blocker. Hi, Louis. Sorry.
Hi.
So this is the blocking room.
Wow.
So those are blocks, all those wooden molds.
Yeah. Okay. So these are different sizes. Different sizes and shapes then. So
different sizes and shapes. Yep.
Mm-hmm. So for one shape you have different sizes.
Yes. Okay. Some shapes I don't, like the vintage pieces I do not, because they're just, that's it. And there's no one to make them. So like something like this, you see how old that is. That's probably from the 30s. I just have one of those.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And then, so that's the blocking room.
And they're all made of wood, these blocks?
Yes. Okay. Everything's made. I mean, you can get blocks made from, well, there's metal blocks. Obviously, there's, sorry, I'll turn my camera back around. There's hydraulics. Mm-hmm. So that's like where you make hats more, like hats that are made in a lot of them, big hat companies, they use a hydraulic machine. And then there's also like plastic and rubber, like people are definitely trying to, let me shut the radio. People are trying to use different materials and even like 3D modeling and things like that to come up with other ideas, because there's not a lot of block makers left.
Oh, I see. Okay, so the block maker, you have to connect with the block maker to tell him exactly the shape that you want. You give the design, and you have the block to be made.
You can, or you can just buy from their collection. So,
I see. Okay.
Like there's a one I use a lot in the UK called Guy Morse Brown. They have a very nice collection of brims, crowns, just about anything you need, fascinators. But if I need something specific, I just send them the hat, and then they make the block from the hat.
But what I can see there in your studio, there's these phases of the hat. So the first, how long does it take from beginning to end?
It depends on the hat. Yeah. So, something like, here, I'll just show you. So these are just kind of a simple fedora.
Yeah.
That's going to take me, 10 minutes to block. It has to dry, and then it comes in and it gets, the brim is sewn with the wire. I'd say every hat's probably about an hour. We put the sweatband in, and then these are just waiting to get trimmed. Okay. And then, sort of like this collection, you see these more like cowboy styles with the snakeskin. Yeah. So this is a collaborative collection that I do with a place in Texas. You could see these are getting piping on the edge.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of detail going into these, so maybe these will take a little longer. But nothing's going to take me more than 2 unless it's everything is handmade. I do have clients who want something that turn this around. Everything's sewn by hand. Maybe we're setting crystals into the veiling or something like that. Those will take longer, but we're doing sort of like made to order but not high-end couture, like a
Oh,
Stephen
yeah.
Jones style hat. Yeah.
So, and the people that that work there so everybody has their own sort of section of this process that they're making. So it's not from
Yeah.
start to
So,
finish one person.
right. So, Lewis is the blocker. He does that, and he's teaching me. I'm not teaching him anything.
Okay.
And then,
Yeah.
and then I have some people who are sewers, and they come in. Most people don't know how to make hats. There's not a ton of people who have that experience, but they're experienced in sewing, and I just teach them the techniques. And then, depending on how long they've been here, is how many techniques they are able to pick up.
Yeah. But now, Cha-Cha, you've done so much, and it's just so inspiring to see and to read your story and to know your story, how you started. But what are the wishes for you now for the future still?
That's a good question. I'd like to just keep kind of doing what I'm doing and continue to increase the business, keep it viable. I hope people continue to wear hats. I hope people, and figure out that it's sort of this fun, interesting way to express yourself. And honestly, I'm quite happy doing what I'm doing. It's super fun. It provides a really great work-life balance. I meet great people. There's not a lot that I'm too worried about. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. But you know what? It's also when I spoke to the hat maker in Australia, and now speaking to you as well, it's really I would love to start wearing a hat. You make it sound so as if you have to have a hat. At some point in your life you have to wear a hat. So
yes.
Yeah.
You see that style, Crone. I mean, that woman rocks a hat.
I know. I follow her. I did
great.
the interviews with her as well, and she's absolutely stunning, and at her age and how she wears the hats. That's
oh my God, yeah, her style is brilliant. Yeah.
Well, this would be my wish now that I can wear a hat. So.
I'm showing you this one. This is for that client that I was telling you about in California, for his mom. So this is just like a piece of vintage straw that I had bought years and years ago. And we were on the phone, and I was sending him pictures of different things, not meaning to show him this. And he just happened to see it, sort of in the background, and was like, what is that? I want that for my next hat. So. It's fun.
Amazing. No, this is amazing. But well done for you and for keeping this art form alive with all those beautiful hats that you make. And like I said,
thank you.
This is my wish now. I'm going to this is
my
go
wish
on the website for the future,
and you tell me what you want. I'll send you one.
Okay.
Your first hat.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Cha-Cha.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So wonderful talking to you. And I hope to one day come to New York to visit you.
Oh, that would be lovely. You're more than welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a lovely day. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.